So, I'm just going to get right started with this instead of, typically I wait for people to come in and check it out. I'm going to post this up on YouTube after I finish here. I feel like this is important information. And so to that end, I'll try to look at your messages a little bit, but it's going to be better for you to post your messages if you have real questions on my YouTube channel, just Tait Fletcher on YouTube. Because there's just a lot to get through with what this is. And so anyway, I've had trouble with my shoulders. A little background on me. I'm a stuntman, I'm a mixed martial artist, and I've had a very colorful existence with my shoulders. I've had 3 surgeries on my left arm, and on my right, my subscap is 60% torn or so. I've got 2 tears in my biceps tendon, latitudinally and longitudinally. They say my labrum is like rice paper. And I have a slap tear in my labrum. All the musculature, the infraspinatus, supraspinatus, all that kind of stuff is all torn up. So there's a whole bunch of activity in there. That being said, years ago, maybe 5 years ago, I want to say now, I ran into a great orthopedic doctor. And what he had told me was, he goes, you know where I am. Because I was like, man, I want you to make me sound, make my shoulders great. I'm ready to do both shoulders right now, and please just hook them up. And he goes, there's no sound. The shoulder is one of the weakest joints that there is. Has a lot of different structural imbalances in it because it's very shallow, and it has a lot of different things that go into it. So once you cut through something, other things are affected, and it breaks up the unison and the balance. So until you're really super hurt, Tait, or until your pain threshold can't take it anymore, I'm only going to rob you of movement and power. So that being said, I've waited, and I kept waiting for a day. I'm like, sooner or later, there's going to be nanotechnology, or there's going to be something, and it's going to go ahead and it's going to change the game, and I'm going to be glad I waited. Anyway, here I am. I got an opportunity with a friend of mine, Darren Prescott, who had gone through, and he'd gone through, I think, 3 or 4 surgeries in the last 18 months or something like that, or 2 years it had been. It was really, really crazy. And so he'd had a huge amount of damage in his shoulders. And they were talking about doing a reverse shoulder where this is, say on this shoulder, this is a humeral bone. So this is the humerus, this is the top of the humerus, this is the scapula that the humerus goes into. They would reverse it. So the scapula goes on the outside and in a sense freezing his shoulder. So he would have a hand that would articulate, but he wouldn't be able to move his humeral head at all. That's where he was going. That's what happened. He got this done, and he was like, man, I can paddle again. I can surf. He's an avid surfer, jiu-jitsu guy, everything. So, the ideas that we're getting from contemporary Western medicine were simply archaic and barbaric, really. So, that was a real issue that we were looking at, and I didn't want to go into that route. And everybody that was trained up until a few years ago just had this one tool to use, and that tool to me was inadequate. And I luckily didn't have to partake in it and get cut open at that time. But Darren was kind of like my canary down the mine shaft in a way. He hooked me up with these guys, Dr. Stecco and Dr. God, I'm blanking on the other dude's name. Super nice guys, man. Antonio and Alfred. Anyway, they work with Cornell University. So Cornell University is doing a study, and I got into this program, and they said Hylenex, what that is. So Hylenex, here it is. Hylenex is an enzyme, and hyaluronic acid, I believe, is an amino acid, and it has short, medium, and long chains. They occur in your body all the time, both of these things. What Hylenex does is it goes and it breaks up the longer chains, because the longer chains will stop sliding tissue from sliding. So when that happens, you of course get injury when you mitigate the joint mobility. So at any rate, that happens a lot to me. I've got all kinds of problems all through my shoulder gauntlet. So when Darren had this kind of breakthrough, and here's the box, is just Hylenex, and it's recombinant. They make it from, they take out the, there's a lot of stuff, I don't know, I've got to look more into it. But they talk about taking it from the ovaries of hamsters or something, all this kind of stuff. I don't know. I said, where do you derive it from? He says, we take the human gene out, then we mix it with bacteria, and it spins and grows, and then you get Hylenex out of it. That's where we get our Hylenex. So What Hylenex does is it breaks down these long chain hyaluronic acids, which bind up the joint and bind up the sliding tissue of musculature and ligaments. And so what happened today, and you can kind of see like there's a circle there and there's circles here, in like 18 spots throughout my shoulders, my chest, in here, fucking here in my lower pec. He said, "Oh, you have acid reflux, don't you?" I go, "Yeah, but I think it's like I'm a gluten intolerant guy," and et cetera, et cetera. So at any rate, anyway. So at any rate, he injected these portions as well. He says what happens is that's constricted, it pulls and it changes the esophagus and the way the sphincter of the esophagus over the stomach sits. It won't sit flush, and a lot of times guys get acid reflux. Anyway, I get like 18 of these injections, anywhere from, superficially quarter or half inch in, I think, to like, I think they want like 3 inches or something into my forearm. At any rate, no, it's just clinical trials, man. Try to pay attention. I still got that sassiness even if I'm educating. So, boy, blues and weed, you don't pay attention at all. You're almost going to get blocked for being dumb. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I would never do that, blues and weed. I love you. Anyway, they derive it from different places. What the guy told me, I just finished saying, so it's hard for me to re-articulate if you're trying to play catch-up. I'm not going to. Watch it on YouTube. Anyway, the deal is that I'm looking for freedom here. And these guys also do amniotic stem cell treatments. Now, stem cells are a longer process to grow that back, inject them, and make tendons and ligaments grow back. It's also more effective if it's an acute injury. My injuries got dust on them, and I've got injuries stemming back to when I was 14 years old. So at any rate, this is the newest thing in that kind of realm. My mom just pulled her back out, and there's musculature around that pulls the back out of place. And there's a ton of different places where this can be super duper useful in the conversation of growing into a healthier body without having to cut through the fascia and muscular structure of the body, and then also changing I've had my anatomy changed. They've cut off my biceps head where it inserts and screwed it in underneath with a 4-inch screw through my scapula. They did that I don't know, in 86 or something. It was, so at any rate, that's a little bit of the lowdown on the Hylenex treatment that I did. I'll come back again, and I'm going to be doing checkups with these guys regularly and letting them know what my results have been. Well, my results have been so far is that I breathe deeper for somehow, and I'm less constricted all through. And I don't know if anything's placebo or what it is. But then also I'm walking through Soho all day today. Afterwards, I got finished I think at 3 or 4. I went and saw my friend Daryl that owns this great company, Battle Bomb, but it's a whole different story. She doesn't own it. She is a partner in it. Whatever. Anyway, and I'm walking, and usually I would try to walk in a way or sit. Like, people are like, you got great posture, but it's like I try to be in a position where my shoulders are down and back as opposed to being here. And this, when I'm walking today, is just a natural position, and I find myself falling into that position effortlessly as opposed to having to consciously be pulling my shoulder blades down and back into a proper postural position. So that's kind of the deal with it. And God, I don't know what else I have to say. Be doing updates here and there on it. Please check me on the YouTube channel, Tait Fletcher. And boom, I know my fucking belt's undone. I saw that too. So embarrassing. Here I am, just showing myself to the world. But I'm gonna keep doing it because we all got to know each other, and we're all human. So that's it. Any questions? I'll do a couple right now before I have to sign off. I got to go take Duty into dinner. It's his birthday, And maybe I grow another head from it. I don't know what happens. But the point is, a guy asked me, he says, hey, how much did this cost? I mean, it's plane tickets. It was an initial consultation. It was like nothing, comparatively. I was looking at stem cells. I was looking at another place. where Joe had gone, and I think they were like $5 maybe, something like that per shot. And I don't know how many shots of that you need. The Regenikine, I think it was even more cost prohibitive than that. I would have been looking at a bunch of different shots at like $4 or $5 a piece. And at any rate, you know, this is experimental. I got brought into a study, so it doesn't cost anything. But I know that what they did tell me, that it doesn't cost hardly anything to make Hylenex. It's like $20 a bottle. It's like making kombucha for your body in a way. If you heard of GHRP, stem cells is good, but GHRP is from what I understand, GHRP is a peptide, right? Is that right? So anyway, but it's all just experimental. The price doesn't mean anything. The other thing that I'm talking to you about that I really want to put into perspective, a guy asked me online earlier. He goes, "Well, how much is it?" And my answer to him, the quick answer, the only answer is, if you got to ask how much it is, you're not hurting enough. I've been hurting and suffering for almost 10 years, right? And so yeah, and this guy, personal trainer, a lot of joint issues. Whatever, that's great. But like, and this might be helpful to all that stuff, because we're talking about getting the biomechanics back. We're talking about getting into a position where you're moving to the best advantage of your body. Now, when you're injured, what happens is you start to make allowances for your body. Other parts of your body compensate, and you move in an ineffective manner. So your biomechanics get fucked up. What I'm hoping that this does, and what he's talking about, is that my biomechanics get back together. The thing is, I've never stopped. Not my whole fucking time. I keep moving. Like, movement is the one solution that is huge. Blood is the only real help that we have, that is a carrier of all the things that enrich us and make us who we are, and give us healing. So the more blood that I can pump through my whole body, the healthier my vessel is. It's not even about like gaining muscle mass or whatever the thing is. So you just have to think of it in a really clear way. The point is, I've done PRP, I've done Prolo. If you don't know what those things are, that's a whole nother class. But I don't think they're effective, man. I just, for my money, and I've had literally dozens of shots, maybe 100 shots of Prolo. This is something different, man. This is something different. I'm super hopeful. I don't want to say too much or whatever. It's not a panacea. It's not my thing. I'm just saying this is what I did recently, and people were asking. So peace out, motherfuckers, and check it out on YouTube. You can find out more.